Welcome, good afternoon, good morning, good night, wherever you are, and welcome to another episode or conversation of the Strategy Factory, a place where I interview and talk to global leaders to learn more about strategy and how they think about strategy and what the strategy means to them. Today, I have Taruna Upadhyaya, and I'm sorry because I'm really struggling with the surname. So Taruna, you can obviously help me again. I'm really, really sorry. Who will be today with us. Welcome, Taruna. How are you and where are you is the biggest question, since this is a very global platform.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Lucas. Very excited to be with you. I'm in the beautiful city of New York today and pretty much fascinated by what's going on around the world right now, and super excited to just have this conversation with you. And love the element of you recognizing the morning till midnight going on across the world right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm really, really excited about our conversation today. In our preliminary chats, we talked about some incredible golden nuggets that I wish will come back today in this conversation. So if you're fine with it, let's just kick it off.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Let's go for it.
Awesome. So the first question obviously needs to be about you. And who is Taruna? What can you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, well, that's a very interesting one. So I'm Taruna, and I was born and raised in the beautiful land of India as a country. And I come from military forces background. I've 3 generations of my family are part of the military services. And growing up in that kind of a fabric of life, I grew myself up to join the corporate world, starting my journey back in Asia. And post that, migrated myself, moved a lot of places, and made some new friends, made some new homes, and got recognized with lots of companies. So I traveled across 4 different continents, served some of those global companies out there in these 4 critical markets. And finally, after Europe and Middle East, I am here in the American market and managing US multinational companies. At this point of time, I work for T-Mobile, which is one of the most fascinating names that you will hear in the space of 5G. If you hear T-Mobile, I think the only thing that comes to your mind is 5G, speed, value, a lot of love and familiarity between people, and it's a magenta family. So it's a magical time for our company. It's magical moments for our employees, and I feel really proud to be part of this group and gang, really thriving and thrilling ourselves every day. In my current role, I lead the global strategy for the Global Wireline Business. We are present in 190 countries. We serve our customers out of 26 offices. So as large as it can get and as magnanimous it can be. In these space and time that we anchor our lives, the momentum of the digital transformation, digitization, everything layered up with the catalyzing effect of the pandemic has kind of brought our entire life and our existence as telecom industry as the core center point for everything that's happening around the world. So probably from the moment you wake up in the morning, you open your eyes, and even while you're sleeping, we are with you, right? So that's the magical experience that we are gaining and we're enjoying ourselves with.
That is fabulous, and I definitely want to kind of deep dive a little more about on the telecom industry, because I'm a millennial myself. I got my first phone where I was quite young. I was like maybe 14, but when I got my first phone, there was nothing like 3G back then. It was the 2G. It was basically nothing. I remember if you would access the browser in like my first phone was a Siemens A56, which was a very small round phone with an orange backlight, and there was basically no access to the internet. You had to pay by the second or by the minute, and the connection was really bad. There was nothing like Wi-Fi. So back then, the telecom industry was basically serving minutes. They would sell they would send me like line minutes and SMSs. So they would charge me a premium number for just an SMS back then, when I was very young. And that has changed, as you said, completely. It's everything that happens with us from the moment that we wake up to the moment we go back to sleep, and even in our sleep sometimes too.
Truly, so, yes. I didn't want to go there, but you're right.
So what can you tell me about this change? You've been in the telecom industry obviously for a while, and how has this shift been, and where do you think it's basically leading next?
Sure. I mean, you raise such an important point as you frame this question and you share about your life experience. So for me, it's been about close to 2 decades to be part of this industry, where I've seen the evolution of global telecommunication, its intersection between media, technology, and every other industry that we talk about today, and how we impact the consumer who's literally walking on the street or sitting back, laying down, and how he's changing channels and enjoying his Netflix. So the rhythm of what we at a stage of life used to call 1G and 2G and 3G and 5G, the whole thing is, oh my God, what the hell is this G, right? So grounding ourselves back into this at a point of time, it only meant that with every generation change, in generation 10 years, every generational change, what was happening for you was the phenomenal improvement in the way you would communicate better. It started with just the basic phone call, sending a text. That's where Siemens and Nokias of the world were serving you so well. And then from there on, you graduated to using rich text, or I don't even know if you remember these names or not, but they were called multimedia messaging, and you could actually share an animation and just feel the thrill of probably experiencing a little smiley on your black and white handset, literally. And then there was this interesting inflection point that came in our lives, which was the launch of 3G, from where the video experience began. And with that, as different companies, different countries started adopting into that technology, the biggest shift that happened was in the lives of individuals like you and I, right? We, the consumers who live and experience technology every day in ourselves. Mm-hmm. And at that point of time, the biggest experiential change was, how would you experience your media? And I still recollect launching third generation experiences, doing the first video call from my home country to another one was a wow experience. I can't even imagine what that meant to so many people, and what an emotional connect it was for all of us to have felt that it's been a breakthrough, something like the experience of how you see the superheroes literally, the Wonder Woman could take her wand out and make magic happen, right? And from that point of time, I can really share this with you, that the biggest change and the thrust that we saw in the industry was an ecosystem of players started combining. So earlier than that, it was only about telco companies saying, this is your technology, this is how you will progress. And so my dear friend on the handset side, kindly go ahead, develop some better chips, create a better experience for our customers. The digitization on the .com was evolving. They were still doing the desktop sites. So if you recollect from the history days, if you would try and open up, let's say the .com time, the Yahoos and the AOLs, you would just kind of frantically kill yourself there, because you would scroll up, then you would scroll horizontal. So in 2004 and much earlier than that I remember this, where we sat down to actually give the experience of what at that time was called the XHTML version of the site. So all stuff that we see on Samsungs and Apples today was actually originated inside labs, and we tried to repurpose every site according to the frame feature of what your handsets would look like. So when that transition happened, we graduated it to 3G. And I remember when we were trying to take it to market and really make people understand, one of the most interesting insights were three things. Number one, you're in the middle of getting ready to work, or you're in the middle of going for a wedding party, and you're applying makeup and you're actually using YouTube to get ready or apply your, your best blush on. And there you have, and I don't think people really remember what you saw then. It used to be like this whole circle thing that used to keep going on, and it was called buffering.
Buffering.
So that was a very important fundamental word and keyword that we used to all talk about then. And what did 3G do? 3G removed buffering from your lives, right? It allowed you to cook, it allowed you to watch a live match, it allowed you to experience entertainment for the very, very first time. And then with 4G, what we saw was the fashion of ecosystem started to come together. Whether you take the handset ecosystem, you take the OEM players, OEMs are your sort of manufacturing companies that provide you with hardware out there. And then you kind of stepped it up by engaging the end consumer across different medias. And it was for the first time people started hearing the word triple play happen. So what the content that you were going to experience with the power of internet could actually be taken from your mobile phone onto your tablet, then to your television. And it could all be taking a kind of a chain format and was seamless for you as somebody who was going to be experiencing it. While this shift was happening on the consumer side of the world, a similar adoption was going on the side of the B2B part of the world, right? Where companies that were existing in let's say, local units of country sets or regions started to really dream big, really take the capability of technology. And just like you and I are talking today, we decided let's host one office in New York while let's host the other office in Sydney, and it would work seamlessly. So that was the exciting time when we started connecting people and connecting places. And as 4G happened, the new thing in the game that came up was connecting things. And we triangulated the life, the telecom industry triangulated the lives of people by connecting people, places, and things. And we started talking about wearables. Apple started launching the watch. You started measuring your heart rate. You started running better. You started jogging better, being conscious of your calories. Everything was happening. But the beauty of it was, while all of these changes were going on, everything was turning mobile first. And many countries and many significant companies you would see, they shifted their business model from being traditional paper to directly going mobile first. It wasn't even about the PCs anymore. And PCs started to become redundant. And that's where the magic of internet started to open up further, right? So with that kind of shift happening, and the growth of mobility started to actually surpass the deficiency that was caused by the decline in the PC measurements or any kind of analytics that you would like to assess there. So this is where we have arrived till now. And from here, the big tectonic shift, if I can say that, is right at that inflection moment. So I'm sure you've been reading, you've been tracking, you've been hearing, and you've been assaulted by so much value of the internet in your own lives that somehow it just makes you feel that, oh my God, am I going to explode, or something like that is going to happen. And that's exactly right. The explosion is about to happen. Industries are about to implode. New business models are about to proliferate. And the way you and I today consume our lives are going to change. And the beauty of it is, everything that we digitized or automated has the ability to be automated now. It's no more in the fantasy, in movies like Matrix, or it doesn't exist in some kind of a sci-fi thriller anymore. This is going to be our real lives. This is going to be our real world. And to add to everything, while I'm conscious when I say this, because the pandemic has brought a lot of unlearning to each one of us. The pandemic has brought a lot of grief moments to each one of us. And at the same time, it has given us emotions and moments in our lives where connectedness has meant something else to each one of us. It's been a very, very personalized experience. So when all of us are going through this moment, this shift in our lives, what role can the industry like telecom really play for you? That's a very big question mark. It's a question mark that we are posing ourselves every day, sitting in our office. I should not call it office anymore, in our home rooms, and really communicating and trying to think about what is it that Lucas really wants right now. What is it that is going to really add value to Lucas's life right now? And when I think about that, and I share this with you, and feel open to tell me more on how you think about this. With this whole shift, the world of connectedness is now taking a step forward, and it's going to have three critical currencies which are going to play a very strong part. Number one is going to be the process with which you are going to talk to me, okay? Which means, how are you going to engage me, or what content are you going to connect me with? Mm-hmm. So content has always remained. It is nothing new. But this content, which was always the king, is now going to execute itself a new kingdom altogether. So that's the first thing that telecom industry will create for us, is serve you the right platform of 5G, allowing you to experience speed, allowing you to experience low latency, very, very high reliability. And all of this combined will enhance your experience at an exponential level. It will also allow to bring a shift into the way you consume through devices. And going back to the sci-fi experience that I was sharing, probably you would never need a large podcast mic like that right in front of you. And you may not need sticks hanging out of your ears anymore. Yeah. Probably you could just be having a surround sound going on here, which would be actually customized enough to the size of your ears. And when you want to watch something and you really like something and you want to engage forward, maybe do commerce, all you need to do is blink your eyes, express yourself, give a head shift, and it's going to all work for you. So the Gen Z, the millennials of this world, are in for loads of surprises going to open up in their lives and how they consume and they shift their lives. But at the same time, the industries are going to make it happen. So that ecosystem is maturing, and they are the ones that are going to bring content to you. Now, with content comes the other part, which is the second currency that I want to talk about, which is context. And your and my context is always going to be very different, right? So how do I really, really personalize this? So while we talk about being global, right, we talk about this whole capability that is universally expanding today. It's pretty recent, right? We had this interesting traveler called Richard Branson who made it straight up to the sky and then crossed over, made it to the space, right? Crazy. So we aren't stopping at any point of time. And now when you see that happening, the context with which Richard landed there and I am sitting here in my New York home and dreaming about it is very different. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I got to be very mindful, and that's what you want, and that's what I want, right? If you're going to give me technology, don't tell me how to adopt technology. Adopt this technology to who I am and personalize it so much that I don't differentiate between what is my life and what is this life that I virtually believe in, or what people used to call as a dream. Let those boundaries melt together and come together. So as we speak back to the context part of it, right? So it has to be my internet and it has to be Lucas's internet. Perfect. Right? And my neighbor's internet is going to be very different. And my dog and my pet and my cat's internet is going to be very, very different. And it's going to be equally very different for the microwave that's running in my house, or the electricity that is flowing into my smart meters or flowing through my smart lights. And everything is going to be managed the way I would like it, because I am powered and more empowered by this internet.
That's incredible.
So as we create your internet and I create my internet, what do you think could be the third most critical currency?
That interconnection. Where do we meet back in that part?
It was going to be about consent.
Consent.
I have to have your consent. You have to have my consent.
So that we can meet.
And when you do these things in combination, right? And that you take my consent to give me the context of the kind of internet I want to receive, and you use that content to connect with me, our worlds will blend. And I would be ready to share my life and my experience in a way that you, as the telecom industry, can actually elevate this experience by the day.
Wow. Wow.
And the ownership is not just going to be on the telecom industry anymore. And think about it, this is going to be on every industry that is going to look at transacting through digital media, through mobile media, or through any kind of content media. And that's where the power of 5G is going to bring mixed reality, or what we call experiential reality, to you. So in some ways, in our 4G world, we did experience what we call augmented reality, or we called the virtual reality. And you saw it while you were watching something on at a Super Bowl at a stadium, or you went to IKEA and you wanted to purchase something, and you put your phone right in front in 2016, up there on your screen, you could figure it out. How would it look in your living room?
Yeah. Yeah.
But guess what's about to change? It's going to become all so much more real.
Amazing.
And now it's going to be you and the magic of your devices, right?
Unbelievable. And unbelievable how fast it has been. I mean, we're talking 15 years since my first experience that I was sharing with you earlier. And I definitely want to start digging into other ideas of what you do. But there's something that I want to ask you in regards to the innovation of the telecom industry, which is, why do you think the telecom industry has managed to stay so up to speed with innovation when other industries don't need to innovate that much, where they've innovated maybe in their supply chain and their processes to scale their production, for example? Even the hardware industry, obviously it's gotten way better than it was 15 years ago, but we're not talking about this level of substantial difference as the telecom in terms of what they do. What has kept it so innovative? What would you say?
That's a very fascinating question you make, and gives me so much food for thought. First, let me take a moment of joy and pride in saying I belong to this industry, right?
Yes.
And we're doing it, and we're doing it well. So your question is very valuable, and the driver to this is somebody exactly like you and I. It is the customer who is driving this, right? When you own your mobile phone and you own your SIM card, you practically tell the telecom industry moment by moment, micro moment by moment, what is it that you really want? And the moment you're not happy, you can equally see this is a very, very competitive world. Our mergers, acquisition, survival, death rate, it's just like so much so much alive in front of our eyes. If we're not serving you right, you don't need us anymore. It's plain Jane, very simple.
Super.
So everything is actually driven by what is it that the consumer and the customer at the end of the day really wants in his life. Even if it's in your dream, it's actually part of who you are. And telecom industry has been the closest to really understand the beauty of every micro moment that the consumer experiences. Now, at a point of time, this was more about data sets, right? Oh, the customer went to X, from A location to B location, did X transaction. So this means the customer is awake in the morning to do something. And then in the evening, he's coming back from work. So he's probably got entertainment needs. So let me serve him something that brings his stress down. Then this whole behavioral adoption and the usage trends kind of elevated itself. And we started to get to know about how you transact with other industries, right? How do you like to bank? How do you like to eat your food? How do you like to order? How do you like to get food delivery and other things related to it, right? Because the ecosystem started to bring itself at a center point called mobility.
Mm-hmm.
And at the back of it, they started utilizing what we call fixed line or wireline to connect themselves and ensure that secure connectivity is provided, and that is all based on high speed, high reliability, and high transparency. And now the whole shift is, it's no more just about how you transact. It's no more just about how you communicate with your other, apart from your mobile phone, how do you use your phone to connect with your other ecosystem players? But now it's about how's your mood going on, right? How can I really apply the knowledge of AI, machine learning, NLP, your experience with sensors, right? Let's take a beautiful example here, right? I'm a movie fanatic, right? And I have missed going to the theaters for a while. So, so for example, if you would be watching a movie, what's the first thing you do? You catch, even before you go to the movies, you catch a trailer, right? The trailer of the movie comes in front of your eyes. Now, when that happens, every company is today, and trailer, in my view, is the advertising that you receive. So in this case, it's the theater doing it to you or the movie maker doing it to you. And when you look at that, for a moment, let's see if you are watching the trailer on your mobile phone or on your connected TV screen. And if I can gauge that when you experience it, how much do your eyes dilate? How much do you smile? Do your cheeks turn red? What does the heat map of your face really tell? Would I be more capable enough of serving you things you like?
Absolutely, it will. Absolutely. If you can understand exactly how I feel or the way that I feel, you can realize very quickly if that's the movie that I want to see or if I've been put off by that movie. Oh no, this is not what I wanted.
Totally.
Absolutely not.
Right?
Yeah.
Now let's apply the same experience into somebody's life. Let's take back the example of the pandemic. An individual who's going through depressive state, going through a lot of emotions, is probably suffering through certain psychological or combination of physiological and psychological disorders, right? What do? You first don't take any step, you ignore. You do not allow yourself to be opened up to the world because this is complex. This is not easily understood by you, and certainly never understood by anyone around you or outside of you. So you take a moment even before you decide that. Let's take a moment of gut feel here that you've decided to open up yourself and solve for. What's your biggest challenge? You are unable to articulate what is going wrong with you. What is it that you cannot do right here? Why are tears flowing off your eyes? Why can't you smile? Why cannot you see that happiness that is all around you when everybody's telling you your world is so perfect? What's wrong with you? You got a great job. You got this, you got that, right? Or for the veterans who come out of those PTSD moments through a war and they're going through this explosion going on in their heads that they can't articulate. Can I apply the same logic here and do a sentiment analysis for you, and in a way put it in black and white for you and tell you, is this anywhere close? I'm not saying I'm going to be completely 100% out there, but if I can give words to your emotion, I would have created a bridge between who you and I are. And healthcare and all the big conversations that we have these days, people are talking about mental sanity and trying to speak about mental health so much. That would actually get real life. Extremely and powerful. That's the power that telecom, AI, blockchain, and related technologies, along with the kind of device proliferation that we are experiencing from different companies, is about to create. And it is upon each one of us to do that, right?
Tremendously powerful, especially obviously for everything that's got to do with what you were just saying, which is mental health, which is such a big issue especially during the pandemic, and how people are maybe they don't have the words to share it, but also they're afraid or they're ashamed. There are so many of these things that really happen, and they happen to our neighbors, to our friends, to our family, and we might not even know. It happens to us as well.
I have. And I do. And my mornings are very different than what my evening would be because of the way the day has gone. But if I'm able to express and really identify my emotion, I think I would be capable enough of taking action.
Amazing.
Without being dependent on anybody.
That's incredible. That's fabulous. Thank you for sharing all of that, Taruna. It's fabulous. I wanna kind of take this conversation to another or to a different place now. I mean, we could talk about the future and the present of technology. I think for hours and hours. But I think it would be great to know a little bit more about the structural thing of working in a global organization, and how do you actually make all this change happen. As obviously this is called the strategy factory. So we're really interested in the concept of strategy, and how do you actually run a strategy in such a dynamic environment, in a global industry, in a global company or organization? What are the best processes of planning and then executing a strategy in such a dynamic and global company?
It's a very, very interesting theme you bring out, and certainly it has lots of areas to cover. But I think one point that I would like to bring out, which comes from the collective wisdom of I would say generations that have existed before me and the ones that'll be coming ahead of me, is, think global but act local.
Mm-hmm.
And what does it really mean when we say act local? It really means act local for the people. And these people, who are these people? These people are your consumers, your customers. These people are your employees. These people are your stakeholders and your shareholders. And these people are actually individually you yourself. So do not ignore the part that you are part of this consuming consumer community. So that's kind of the mantra, if I can say, to ensure that a global organization, no matter what time zone it is, what part of the world it is going to be successfully collaborating, successfully working. And the other element, which is more on how do you kind of, while this is what I say is more the umbrella framework with which you should carry and execute yourself. Mm-hmm. The other important element of realization that we've had when working with global cultures, with working with global teams, is that you as an organization need to be very, very crystal clear onto the mission that you really stand for. And that word of mission is not just an English word that sounds very aggressive, that sounds very involving, and very powerful, no doubt about it. Yeah. Right? But the deeper meaning of it is, what is this mission of yours that stand for, and how is this going to make a change for the consumer or the customer outside of you? So the moment you put your customer at the center of your decision making, whether you're sitting in New York, you're sitting in Australia, you're sitting in Canada or Alaska, it just does not matter, right? Because that in itself will tell you how are you supposed to execute, how are you supposed to serve, and what actions that you're supposed to take so that you can bring in a moment of relief, a moment of happiness, a moment of joy. And that is true value creation. As long as we can create meaning for each other, as long as a company can create that meaning for its consumers, the shareholders will find meaning for themselves in the format of earnings, in the format of growth in market share, in the format of continuous profitability, and ultimately, ultimately it's going to be the net EPS that we can serve back to the millions who are actually ready to invest into you.
Awesome. For those that might be listening and don't know what EPS is, it's earnings per share. That's right.
Right.
Perfect.
Right. That's so. Yeah, I should have said that. Sorry,
that's
I think the
fine.
world of finance has become so much into acronyms, right?
Absolutely.
So keep your customer at the center of your decision making. That is what is going to really allow you to be successful, no matter what part of the world you come from. Are you direct to consumer? Are you B2B? Or are you B2B2C? Which means serving business to business and allowing them to reproduce a certain product or a service for the end customer.
That's great. And I completely agree. in this idea of as long as you're following that mission, or other people talk about a vision, there's always a nuance, and people use the different terminology, or they differentiate it quite a lot, but I don't think it comes to the point. That makes a lot of sense. Now, however, or on top of that, every single country or every single geography has their own way of doing business and their own culture, and therefore their own triggers to how they consume and what they consume and when do they consume. That could be, I mean, using telecom or buying any other products. So how do you go, or what is, especially in your role, which is global sales, how do you go from this is what we came off of, this is what I know from living here in New York? Obviously, you have a very international background, and you can probably resonate and relate to many different cultures and many different places from around the world. But how do you go from, I'm in my unit, in my apartment in New York, I also have operations in basically how many countries? 70 plus countries. I don't know how many countries you said that you guys operate in. How do you take it from 190? How do you go from HQ idea to the ground? What is that process of strategizing from the top to down to the operations in the ground?
But I think what has really helped us succeed is that, we haven't really differentiated from a DNA of a company to the DNA of being a human, right? So when you kind of take that philosophy out into any country, you're able to create that human connect. People have a way of buying, people have a way of consuming, people have a way of processing. At the end of the day, as long as there is more and more meaning getting created to you, let's for a moment take an example of what's happening in the telecom world itself, right? Where you are going forward and you have different needs of your day that you want to cover up or engage with, and all of it comes from very, very different industry sector. But it is your mobile phone that is allowing you to ensure that you are able to transact or communicate or engage better and own actually an immersive experience, right? So what is that? Is it that is the liability or the ownership or accountability of me having you as my consumer? Is to show that this experience of yours is so seamless that this device is going to be part of who you are. It's not it's not going to be something separate from you, but it's your extension. Right? So the moment we have the ability of creating our brand, our product, ourselves as the extension of who you are, because we are creating more value and more meaning to your existence, that's the winning spot or the sweet spot by which it can happen. Now, when it comes to processes that are engaging behind the scene to make it happen, that's where the triangulation of connecting people, connecting places, connecting things is happening, which is run at the power horse of tier 1 global telecom networks that are running under the sea, that are running through the land, that are running over the air. So what we call the wireless communication, the wireline communication, and Internet of Things. So each of these large industrial conglomerates, part of telecom industry, are going ahead and investing millions of dollars to create that environment. You would have heard about the whole spectrum battle, right? Why is it that 5G is such a precious thing for all these telecom companies, and why are they fighting each other, and what's going on, and what's wrong with the Verizons, the AT&Ts, and the T-Mobile? Why are they such enemies to each other? Well, the fact is, we're not enemies. We are trying to primarily enlarge this whole pie. So with 50 billion devices that are going to be available to us in 2025, just imagine what would that math really mean. For every human that exists on this planet, there will be 6 devices that will be available on the internet. So the pie will no more be about taking a share from it. True. This is what the pie will become. This is the pie that we are trying to create. And when this happens, going back to what I shared earlier, right? This platform will be available to the banking industry, to the healthcare industry, to the mining industry, to the transportation industry, which will make your and my life so simple And at the end of the day, that transaction is still going to continue to happen through your mobile phone. So while all of these complex experiences will happen, it will be that connectivity that gets created through whichever means you choose, air, water, land, your choice, or tomorrow's space, satellite, because satellite's becoming so much more part of our world. You're going to observe that every organization will be able to communicate, transact, and have an immersive commerce-based experience to ultimately serve their end consumer. And this is where the role of a global strategist really comes in, where you are crystal clear on what the mission of who you as an organization stand for, which means you know how you will connect to the hearts of the people you want to serve. We are all servers here. We know how to do that. Point B would be, how do you tie enough cost and consequence, your financial KPIs behind it, so that there is enough accountability from bottom up to top down. And every individual in your organization really feels, number one, that they have the power to make that change, and they are doing something that is meaningful enough. Point B, when they do an action, it has a cost and a consequence to it. So the success of the brand will consistently demonstrate a stronger long-range plan or a stronger plan of yours being achieved, your P&L being achieved, which obviously means great bonuses, which obviously means great salaries and great promotions, no doubt about it. But you would see it happening right in front of your eyes in your respective markets. And the third and the most important part comes in is the endless amount of operational execution which is needed for any strategy's success. And I would like to really quote an American Indo author that I'm a big fan of, who says, strategy without execution is delusion.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
So if what we think as global strategists is not executed, it is going to be a failure. And that is where every local operating company of ours plays the most critical role, where our intent is to really ensure that each one of them feels like they are the CEO. They can own that CEO's chair, they can own that CEO's status when they are serving the consumer or the customer outside. And that just on its own kind of adds the kind of accountability that we all need to be successful as business leaders, and for our consumers to be really happy, really love us, right? And your what you call your net promoter score or your CSAT scores, they are not about the movement of a graph, but it's more about how many hearts literally want to say this to you because they say it. When I was in a disaster, you helped me connect back with my family, right? When I was in my lowest point, you were there by my side. And when I was at my highest point, it was my birthday during pandemic. I could still connect back with my family and my parents and my friends to celebrate. And I could really rejoice the fragrance of a beautiful flower blooming outside my house and capture it on an Instagram moment and share it with everybody I know. Right? So that's what we are talking about. And to be honest, Lucas, the way you and I experience the beauty of a flower blooming, it's not going to be different in any continent.
Absolutely. No, that is completely true. That's completely true. And you just said something that made me, I had never thought before, which is, do you think, or how do you think consumers, people that are actually using their devices right now, you just said, if they have a fabulous experience because when they're in a moment of joy, they get to connect, right? Do you think they think about you, or do you think they think about the device or the platform that they're using, or that there is a combination? Because now that I think of it myself, I'm not really thinking about the telecom. Like, if my internet works well, perfect. If it works like crap, then I'm really angry at whoever is providing my internet. But if I'm really happy while connecting with my parents, we're doing this through a Zoom call now. I'm like, oh, Zoom works really well. I'm not thinking about what's powering Zoom in the back. How do you get that recognition, if you do, or if it's, or does that recognition comes from where? That is something that I don't know. I find it fascinating.
I think your question had the answer in itself, right? And that's where the value of the telecom industry in itself is, that you are creating experiences and you don't want to be remembered. Mm-hmm. That's probably the biggest legacy that any individual, any leader, or any industry can create for itself. And you said it so well, right? The moment my internet's not gonna work enough, I am going to search you, find you, and take you hands-on that this is not working for me, right?
And change you, yes.
And totally. Whether it's your internet not working, or it's your Amazon delivery that's gone wrong, or it's your Snapchat that's not functioning too good for you, or probably the heating inside your smart device is not happening well for your microwave to cook your food, or if you're being measured incorrectly by your Apple Watch, which tells you, oh, I didn't think you did any steps today while you were literally sweating it out in the gym, right? Mm-hmm. You are not going to forgive us. And that's exactly the mission with which we have qualified ourselves, right? And you can read this mission statement for any telecom operator. I can actually tell you any telco. You talk about Asia, you talk about UK, you talk about, you name it. And probably if in these next 2 minutes you Google and you pick up any telco out there and you read their mission statements, they will tell you it's not about saying, I'm going to connect you and connect me. No. What I'm going to do is I'm going to connect you to the lives you want to be with.
Yeah.
Awesome. And this connect is going to be so beautiful that you're going to forget that there is a connect happening. It's like having your heart, right? Do you count how many times is your heart beating in the day? Absolutely you don't do that, right?
No.
You don't count the number of breaths you take.
No.
So this is exactly what the industry is standing for, is doing every day. It employs the employees that work for the telecom industry for no other reason but for this, were called to be the essential services in the pandemic.
Yeah.
Because if this wasn't working, I cannot say, but how many millions of kids would have not been able to get educated in this time? Zillions of businesses would not have been able to serve each other. Mm-hmm. And if that could have come, this world would have stopped. But come 2021, what are we saying? We're saying we accelerated, we jumped up. We are in a position where where the digitization of the world, which could have taken, I do not know how many enormous years, has stepped up.
Absolutely.
Right. Wow. So that's the shift and the power of connectivity, power of connectedness, and power of you and I.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And Taruna, I think we can obviously keep on talking forever. This is being great. And actually, when I tell you something, we're recording, we're live. But today is my birthday, and now I'm going to be connected with my family. I'm
very happy birthday, Lucas.
Thank you. I'm going to be connected with my family, and now I'm going to keep on thinking about this all day long. Like, sure, if it's a seamless experience, nobody cares, and it's great. And I'm not going to think about how great my internet service is because I take it for granted. Now, if it fails, I'm going to be remembering, and I'm going to be thinking about you today all day and saying, why is this not working really well? So I hope it does, like it's working right now.
If it's not working well, you can let me know about it.
So Taruna, I want to start kind of closing this conversation. Again, I think we could go forever and ever. But one of the questions that I had was this idea of short-term objectives versus long-term goals, or or innovation in this case. Obviously, the telecom industry has proven to be extremely innovative, but at the same time, as you were saying, extremely competitive. And this idea of we need to capture the pie. Obviously, we need to deliver results for our shareholders, but at the same time, we're building towards a future where the pie is getting bigger. How do you manage that short-term goal with that long-term vision? And then how should we think of the KPIs if the KPIs are there in place and they're the correct ones, or how should we think of changing those KPIs to be more focused on what's coming and on building that future that we see that it's just around the corner, and not about always thinking on delivering quarter on quarter?
Oh, yeah. I tell you, delivering on quarter is very, very important. No one's going to spare us if we don't do that. You wouldn't spare us if we don't deliver by the minute. So let's be very clear.
I agree. No, I agree. I'm completely right.
Right. And that's exactly what the long-term vision and the short-term execution is all about. The long-term vision is consistently getting closer by the day to the mission that you've set yourselves for. And that, when translated into sort of qualifying and quantifying it with financials, quantifying it with outcomes and business outputs, really enables us to define where we want to be in the next 3 to 5 to 7 years of our existence, which means how can we really contribute back into people's lives in a way that 3 years down the line, or 10 years down the line, or maybe much earlier, actually this time, they're in 6G. Right? So, but I'm not going to offshoot there. 6G will be for a later time. Let's for a moment talk about the short-term execution and your objectives that you really have to ensure that they are achieved with extreme amount of operational excellence and intensity, such that there are visible outcomes, right? So unless there are no visible proofs in life, rest everything is going to remain to be an illusion, right? And that's exactly what our short-term goals or our short-term definitions quarter on quarter are, and how this continues to move forward. Some of the execution capabilities that really come in important and valuable is, number one is to ensure that you are connecting the dots at every moment, which means ensuring that the knowledge about your customer and the knowledge between your product and your sales teams is not disintegrated. This is one ecosystem, right? So that experience has to be quantified every moment, and this has to be that these dots have to be connected. And these dots, it's strange, in our lives we connect the dots backward, but in this case you have to connect the dots forward. And only enough and more meat of the insights that you gain from every speck and corner that you touch your customer, every touch point that you touch your customer will bring back those insights, and those data points will enter into the sandbox of your organization. And then when that is offered back to these individuals, whether they are finance, they are sales, they're marketing, they're brand owners, it doesn't matter. They will know what they need to execute upon. The second thing is to keep a fast fail mentality, which means take a path, but don't be afraid of failing. Don't be afraid of pivoting. And something that I really endorse here when we are talking about enlarging the pie, right? You have to consistently think about the word PIE, pivot, innovate, and from there on explode, right? And that explosion will create to evolution. So ensure that there is enough and more KPIs and measurable KPIs mapped to every insight that you're generating. B, ensure that you are ready to fail fast. And C is to really listen outside of yourself, because that is what we believe, that we get so lost in the mapping of the big picture and your daily drudgery. There is consistently, you're trying to bridge that gap every day of your life when you're dealing the quarterly operations, right? So listening outside to your consumers, to your customers, and what's happening in your world, and now in your internet connected industrial lenses, will really help you take the right decisions. because the success of your industry or your individual business unit is not in isolation or in silos anymore. The success of telecom industry in this pandemic has been when the transportation and aviation industry could successfully deliver the vaccine from a Pfizer or a Moderna from the pharma industry back in Africa and Asia and in other parts of the world. And when we could do that, the player sitting in the telecom space could actually take pride in saying, we could play a role there. So go out, listen, and just be on that listening exploratory journey every day of your life. And that will keep giving you the answers on where do you need to fail, and fail fast, correct your path. And the moment you correct yourself, measure yourself enough so that you're able to create a connectivity, so that you're able to connect the dots between what went right, what went wrong.
Amazing. That is incredible. Taruna, I think that, I want to ask you if there's anything else that I should have asked you or anything else that you want to share before we close this conversation.
Oh, well, wow, this is interesting to say. I think let's take a moment to say who Taruna is when it's not about this whole global strategy life of hers, and who I am as a consumer. So, and like I shared with you, come from this beautiful country called India. A lot of people in this world know about it for various reasons. I love it because my heart lives there. That's the soul that I'm made of. And I'm a traveler, and that's what answers the reasons why you see me in so many places and so many lives. And fortunate or unfortunate, I don't read too many books. I do not get the time to even do that. Even if I'm trying to plug in audiobooks, probably I just get to be doing something more in my life. And that has led me to creating that people connect. And I learn from the lives of people.
That's amazing.
And over a period of time in my life, what I learned is that's what's taught me how to connect the dots forward and connect the dots backward.
That's fabulous. This
is who I am, and I've been. And it's been fabulous to connect with you, to connect with the audience of the Strategy Factory. I'm completely thrilled about this initiative that your team and members at Cascade have really taken. I believe you are right at that very amazing point at which a new wave is going to open up. And as telecom person, we keep talking about the waves that keep coming in.
Yeah.
So this is another one that you guys are ready to ride on. And the interesting thing is you are here to offer us our surfing boards. And that's what I love about the work that you and the team are really leading. And I think I'm very lucky and phenomenally impressed that technology is connecting each other on your most special day.
Yes, amazing. Taruna, I couldn't thank you enough. I appreciate for obviously your kind words, but most of all for this wonderful time that we've had together, this wonderful conversation. I'm really looking forward to international traveling. So whenever I can come to New York, I can come visit. We can have a coffee and continue this wonderful conversation.
Totally,
looking forward.
Totally. Would love it. Yes.
Taruna, have a wonderful end of the week, and I'll talk to you very soon.
Yeah, you too. Have a fabulous, fabulous birthday. Enjoy yourself.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.